Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the 2022 gubernatorial races in the United States. We're going to be talking about many of these races, and we're going to be characterizing what they look like as of the end of August. Obviously, I've not been filming quite as much recently. I'm sorry for that. I've been getting back into the swing of school and things like that, so I apologize for that. But we are going to be talking about the 2022 gubernatorial races in today's video. So as we look and see some of these races right now, some are competitive and some are more competitive than others, right? And we see the state of Florida, which is a 92% chance of winning for Ron DeSantis, 85% chance of winning in Georgia. So we've got a lot of states that we're going to characterize in today's video, and let's just go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start by characterizing some safe states for the Democrats and safe states for the Republicans. So in these races, a lot of them are going to be more competitive than people think, even states like Illinois. While I still do think that J.B. Pritzker will win in Illinois, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the video. It's important to characterize what these races stand like right now, and looking at how close they're going to be. Safe states, in my opinion, are characterized as states that are going to go to the Democrats or the Republicans by around roughly a 15 plus margin. So a lot of those states in midterm elections aren't going to be quite like that, especially in gubernatorial races as well. So a lot of these states also are going to be closer than many people may expect as well, and we're going to talk about those in today's video as well. So these states are states that I do think are going to be the solid red and solid D states for the Democrats and for the Republicans. As we see, the Republicans have many more solid Republican seats than maybe the Democrats do, right? If we look at it right now, I mean, the Republicans are solidly winning states, and they're already at 23 governor races just with the states that they already have, as well as the ones that they will pick up in safe margins. The Democrats at 13. So let's start by talking about the state of Oregon. If we look at Oregon, I mean, it's more characterized towards the Democrats. Tina Kotick, I'm sorry if I butcher that name. I apologize for that, but has a 68% chance of winning. And there's other candidates in this race as well, if I'm not mistaken. So if we look at this, we can see that obviously the Democratic candidate does have a better shot at winning based off of FiveThirtyEight's analysis of it and polling numbers. But this race is going to be more competitive than many people think. And I think I'm going to go ahead and characterize this as more of a lean Democratic state. The next state, though, that we're going to talk about is the state of Minnesota. I'm sorry about that. The state of Minnesota is going to be, if you pay attention to Minnesota and Minnesota politics, you can pay attention to the fact that Minnesota is a state that has went to the Democrats in large numbers. I mean, if we look at the presidential cycle on here, we can see that the last time that Minnesota went red was way back I'm sorry, I've got to keep going. Was way back in 1972, I believe. Yes, because in 76, yeah. So 1972 was the last time that Minnesota went red, and that was for Richard Nixon in his re-election bid. So it's been a long time ago since Minnesota has went red on a national level in the presidential cycle. But if we pay attention to this gubernatorial race, the incumbent, Tim Walz, has a better shot at winning, really. To boil that down, Tim Walz is just popular in the state of Minnesota from looking at these poll numbers. I mean, he has a pretty good chance of winning, considering, I mean, if we look at the 2020 election results, Biden won the state by 7.1 points. And if we look at this, let me go back. In more of a red style environment, we see that Tim Walz nearly has a 9% victory to his Republican opponent. So obviously this race isn't going to be a safe Democratic state, but I do believe that it will be more on that lean Democratic, likely Democratic scale. More, in my opinion, more on the likely Democratic scale of it. The next state that we're going to talk about is the state of Illinois. And if we look at Illinois, I mean, we can see that this race is really likely to go to J.B. Pritzker. He has a 97% chance of winning in recent poll numbers. He's winning on large margins, but I do not think he will win as big as these poll numbers may say he will. And the reason for that is because I do not see J.B. Pritzker winning this race by 15 plus percentage points. Obviously, Joe Biden won the state by 17 percentage points, but I do not believe J.B. Pritzker can do the same, and I will characterize it as a likely Democratic state. The next state, though, that we are going to talk about is the state of actually, sorry, I have to go back to Oregon. I meant to characterize Oregon as a lean Democratic state, not a likely. I apologize for that. But we are going to go back, and we're going to talk about the state of Nevada. And if we look at Nevada, we can see that Joe Biden won the state by 2.4 percentage points, and Steve Scalise, or however you pronounce his name, I'm sorry if I butcher that. Again, many of these names I'm not going to pronounce correctly, and I apologize about that. Has around a 61% chance of winning, and if we look at the forecasted vote share, he is winning in that as well. 49.4 percentage points to 47.6 percentage points, nearly a 2 percentage difference. But I do believe that this race will be a more of a lean Democratic race. I'm sorry about that. I do believe that it will be more of a lean Democratic race, and that's anywhere between 1 to 5 percentage points. The next state, though, that we're going to talk about is the state of New Mexico. And if we look, Biden won the state by 10.8 percentage points, so you would think, right, that the same thing would happen in the midterm cycle. Not exactly. If we look at this, it's a likely Democratic race on the scale from FiveThirtyEight. And if we look at the exact percentage points, we can see that New Mexico is, the forecasted vote share in New Mexico has the Democratic candidate at 51.9 percentage points to the Republicans' 45.7 percentage points. I believe it will be a closer race than what's characterized on here. I do believe that it will go to the Democrats, but I do believe it will be more of a lean Democratic race, like some of these other states. The next state, though, that we're going to talk about is the state of Wisconsin. If we look at Wisconsin, we can see Biden only won the state by 0.63 percentage points, but FiveThirtyEight rates this as a lean Democratic race for Tony Evers. Evers has a 66% chance of winning based off FiveThirtyEight's cycle, and we can also see in the forecasted vote share that he wins about 50.7% of the vote to his Republican opponent, Tim Michels, 47.7% of the vote. So I do believe this will be a close race. I do think it will start to maybe even out a little bit more as we get closer. But I do believe that Tony Evers will win this race pretty exceptionally. I've seen some people characterize this as a tilt Democratic race. I just don't believe that. I believe it will be a lean Democratic race, but I do not see it as a tilt Democratic race. I do believe that it will be more on that lean scale. But the next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Michigan. If we look at Michigan, it is likely to go to the Democrats in this race. Biden won the state by 2.8 percentage points, and if we look at this race on FiveThirtyEight, they rate it as a 93% chance of victory for Gretchen Whitmer. And if we look at the forecasted vote share, she's over 10 percentage points in the winning to her Republican opponent, Tudor Dixon, and I believe that this will be a pretty solid victory for the Democrats in this race. Considering the cycle that we're in, the Republicans should have a better shot at winning. Maybe they wouldn't win, but they shouldn't be down nearly 11 percentage points. That is not something that we normally see in races like this, and I do believe that Gretchen Whitmer will win this race more on a likely Democratic scale. I do believe that this race will be fairly close. Like I said, I've seen people rate the state of Wisconsin as tilt Democratic, and I just don't believe that. I believe it will be a lean Democratic race, anywhere between 1 and 5 percentage points. But the tilt, I just can't believe that. The next state, though, that we're going to talk about is the state of Maine. If we look, Maine has an 82% chance of winning for the Democrats. Democratic candidate Mills, and in the forecasted vote share, the candidate is nearly 7 percentage points over the Republican opponent, and honestly, I do think that the state of Maine will go to the Democrats on a pretty solid scale. I do believe that it may be closer than people might exactly expect, and I will characterize it more as a a lean Democratic race. I don't believe that it will be likely. I do believe it will be lean, even though forecasted vote share on 538 characterizes it as a likely victory. I don't believe that. The next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Connecticut. And if we look at the state of Connecticut, we can see that the Democratic candidate, has a 92% chance of winning. And if we look at the forecasted vote share, is exactly 10 percentage points ahead of the Republican candidate. And this will characterize this race as a likely Democratic race. So the next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Texas. This state and the state of Texas has started to become more of a competitive race with Beto O'Rourke. Trump won the state by 5.6 percentage points, and in the forecasted vote share on 538, Greg Abbott has around a 12% margin over Beto O'Rourke. But I just don't believe this. I believe Beto is going to perform better than people expect. And while I don't think he will win this race at all, I don't believe that this is going to be on the scale that people say. I do not believe this is a 12% victory for Greg Abbott. While I do think it will go to on a likely Republican side, I do believe that Greg Abbott will win this race by over 5 percentage points, even though some people may say, I'm outperforming Beto, he performed well in 2018, this just isn't 2018. And I do believe that Beto O'Rourke will perform well, and I do believe he has a decent shot at victory, but I don't believe it's quite as close as some people may expect, but I also don't believe that it's as large of a victory as 538 predicts it at a over 12 percentage point victory. I just don't buy that. The next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis is up for re-election, and a lot of people know who Ron DeSantis is. A lot of people predict that he might run for president. While I don't necessarily believe that, we are going to talk about his race in the gubernatorial race in Florida. So Ron DeSantis is likely to face against Charlie Crist, who is likely to be the Democratic candidate, the former governor of Florida. He was a Republican governor from Florida. He was elected a Republican governor from Florida and switched parties since then, and he's running as a Democrat and is likely to win the nomination for the Democratic Party. Now, if we look, Ron DeSantis has around a 92% chance of winning, and if we look at the forecasted vote share, we can see that Ron DeSantis is at 53.4% of the vote to Charlie Crist 43.6% of the vote. While this race is going to be competitive, I do believe that this race will overall go to Ron DeSantis, and I do believe it will be on a likely Republican margin. I don't necessarily know that I quite believe what 538 is saying. It's going to be a 10 percentage victory for Ron DeSantis. I do believe that it will go on that likely scale like they predicted in there. Though the next state that we will talk about, though, is the state of Georgia. And if we look at the state of Georgia, this is a rematch from 2018, Stacey Abrams versus Brian Kemp, and Brian Kemp has around an 85% chance of winning. And I buy this. I believe Brian Kemp will win this state, and I believe he will win it on a likely margin. I think that this state is going to be similar to Florida. I think that, Ron DeSantis is going to win the state of Florida by over 5 percentage points. That's my personal prediction. And I do believe Brian Kemp will do the same. The next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Pennsylvania. And if we look at Pennsylvania, we can see that the state, Josh Shapiro is just a better candidate than Doug Mastriano. He's just more likely to win this race. He has an 85% chance of victory, and to Doug Mastriano, he is winning by almost 7 percentage points. And while I don't know that I believe that, I do believe that Josh Shapiro will win this on more of a lean Democratic scale. And I believe that that would be characterized correctly in that race. The next state, though, that we will talk about is the state of Arizona. In my opinion, one of the most competitive races of this cycle, Katie Hobbs versus Kari Lake. And Kari Lake has been leading on Katie Hobbs, and Katie Hobbs hasn't necessarily agreed to debate Kari Lake. Kari Lake says that she wants to debate Katie Hobbs, but Katie Hobbs is starting to say, well, I'm not sure about it, and just is beating around the bush on if she's going to debate Kari Lake. I think personally that if Katie Hobbs does debate Kari Lake, this will be more of a a better chance of winning for the Democrats. But if she doesn't, I do believe Carrie Lake can pull this thing off. And based off of the way that Katie Hobbs is talking right now, I do believe, even though Arizona is characterized as a 54% chance of winning for Katie Hobbs, I do believe that Carrie Lake is going to win it, because I don't think Katie Hobbs is going to debate Carrie Lake. I just personally don't believe that, and I think that will be something that Carrie Lake uses very fondly on Katie Hobbs in campaigning. So personally, I do believe this race will go to the Republicans, but I do believe it will be very, very close. I do believe that it will be on that tilt Republican scale. I do believe that Carrie Lake will narrowly win this, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't know that Katie Hobbs will debate Carrie Lake. If she agreed to it, I would then move this race to more of a toss-up and maybe even a tilt Democratic state. But right now, with her saying that she doesn't necessarily know that she's going to debate Carrie Lake, I do believe that Carrie Lake will use that against her, and I believe that it will succeed, and I believe Carrie Lake would pull a victory off in the state of Arizona. So this is my final map. I apologize if I've messed up some margins. This is my first video in a couple of weeks, so I apologize about that. Let me know in the comments what you think, how you think some of these races are going to go. Do you think Texas is going to be closer than I characterized it? Do you think Florida will be closer than I characterized it? Do you think that Katie Hobbs will win the state of Arizona? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And I will see you all in the next video. Make sure to join the Discord server down below, as well as follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter down below as well. We would love to connect with you more there. I will see you in the next video.